And then the government, of course, was bankrupt in 1933, and now we're basically bankrupt again, so they bailed us out again. So we went out of a bankruptcy, we emerged in 2010 from the original bankruptcy, only to go into a new bankruptcy. Is there any gold? Will they take Americans' gold if it comes to that, like they did in 1933? Well, they're planning for social unrest. There are 800 FEMA camps across the United States. You can even get a list of them. They're occupied, many of them, and they are doing terror drills across the country. Some unannounced, some announced. Into schools, gathering up children, bringing them to stadiums, and bringing the parents, saying their parents would meet them there in the event of terrorist attacks. They're giving them orders to corral people, like they did with Katrina. No one will have any guns. No one will be allowed to have any weapons. Remember that? And they took the weapons, ignored people that wanted to help the people, but they took your gun. Yep. It's all coming down. It's coming down fast. And they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. They're going to go until they have total control, and the sheep are going to think everything's all right, and the people that don't go along with it, they're going to round us up, herd us up first, just like they came, you know, for the Jews, just like they came for the communists, just like they came for the trade unionists. And you keep saying, well, I'm not that, I'm not that. Well, now they're going to come for anybody that's for justice and truth and freedom. Because if the people really woke up, these heads would roll so far. But the problem is, they're really not going to let that happen so easily. So there's going to be a lot of dissent and a lot of discord. And I'm going to quote H.G. Wells, because again, I wouldn't want to be misquoted as thinking that I'm inciting any possible violence. But the truth is, H.G. Wells was the one that said that the New World Order, countless millions, countless people will hate the New World Order and die protesting it. And he wasn't kidding. So, you know, but the truth of the matter is, those that aren't aware of how important this is, maybe should question the efforts to bring this information to your attention as some validation. I mean, anybody that spends the amount of time that the Truth Movement spends to research, to learn, to continuously evaluate this criminal government and the history that is really its legacy, and it's not the history that you read in the books that are printed by Rita Zellweger or Harcourt or all the other holdings or all the other industry magazines and medical journals. No. Truth is simply that. And without adherence to truth, life is a fraud. It's like living in a fishbowl. And you think that that fishbowl is your whole world and there's nothing outside the bowl, but you see all this other stuff, but you're not a part of it. Well, that's how it is really for most people. And they feel, especially if they're really not hurting yet, or they really haven't personally felt any pain. A lot of people wake up when they start to realize what happened to them, and they start questioning, why did I lose my house, and why did my company lay me off, and why, and not just simply dismissing it to a bad economy and listening to these, you know, talking head puppets on television and teleprompter readers, and start looking at, well, what happened the last time this occurred, and who profited by it? And wow, you mean that the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers profited by the Great Depression? You mean that they were making money while everybody was losing their property? Uh-huh. You mean that they're doing that again? Uh-huh. You mean they did that in 1920? Uh-huh. You mean they did that in 1907? Uh-huh. And that's why they put the Federal Reserve together? Uh-huh. And that was to stop that from happening? Uh-huh. And then in 1929 it happened, the biggest depression in history. Uh-huh. Wow. And now it's this like perpetual recession. Uh-huh. Leading to total collapse. Uh-huh. Yep. That's their goal. So, now that you know their agenda, well, what do we do about it? How do we solve this problem? Well, you can call your congressman, but he's not going to listen. You can call your senator, they're probably not going to listen either. Even your local politicians, you make some noise. I mean, I've done it. I've contacted, I bitch, I call them, I called the White House a couple times. I've called my senator. I called Chris Murphy and Joe Courtney, outraged because they were co-sponsors of the bill to audit the Federal Reserve, the first bill that failed, and before they got any audit, and they co-sponsored the bill and then voted against it. So I called them criminals. Yeah, well, they're in league with criminals at the very least. They're sellouts. That's what it is. They sold out. And that's what they do. That's what these politicians do. We really do need grassroots people. Like Kokesh's Iraq veteran is running for public office, I think for council, or Congress, or maybe even Senate. I'm just so happy he's a libertarian. We need libertarians, really. That is what I am. I'm a libertarian. We need people that are going to defend liberty in government. It's just even you look at these politicians. I was talking to you go in and talk to the Republican office or the Democrat office, like here in Torrington, and the people are just sheep. They're just sleeping there, and it's like they don't understand anything, and they're like yeah, and they just they don't get it. So we really sort of have to get a whole new Congress and a whole new system as far as that. We need new people. I think we should, if they want to pass laws, instead of passing laws like the super Congress that can bypass and write their own laws and bypass Congress and bypass the Constitution, and Obama saying that he can do whatever he wants. Instead of all of that, what we should have is a law that says, well, two things. No law written can be longer than the Constitution, period. That'll stop a lot of this fraud. Because you're getting 800-page laws that people get overnight to read, 3,000-page laws. You think I'm kidding? Look it up. There are laws that have 10,000 pages, and people vote on our representatives vote on these laws. And you think they read them? And then they state these laws, and they statutes, and they say you violated this because it's on their record, and that's why it's there, so they can use it. Or another administration can use it in the future. We are under attack here, ladies and gentlemen, by these globalist influences that are out to control the New World Order, that's out to control and every aspect of our lives, and they're coming very close. Because if we have started having real riots and stuff in the streets because of food shortages and stuff like that, and more damage to the economy, that unfortunately we're leading down a very precarious road as far as the economy itself. And once these people that have very little or nothing have nothing to lose, and when people have nothing to lose, that's when they lose it. And that's in the immortal words of Gerald Celente, and it's absolutely true. And that will give them the excuse to go in for martial law. And that's when they'll say, well, we're going to take care of you and we'll figure out a way, and don't worry, just come with us and we'll figure it out later. I know for anybody listening that's a skeptic or doesn't understand how this is working, it does sound very far-fetched, because if you were to tell me this before I awoke, I would think that you're an absolute nut. And this truth movement's been going on for many, many years. People that I have the greatest respect for, that in some cases I've actually had the I've studied so much of their work, such as Anthony J. Hilder, Anthony J. Hilder, and others, you know, like, oh my God, Eustace Mullins. And there's just so many great writers and researchers and filmmakers. Alex Jones,